Welcome to my Toyota 200 Series touring build. Okay, so I'm back. And I know that I said that this was just going to be a 9-part series, but of course, I missed a few things, I stuffed up, I'm sorry. So I'm here today, I've written everything down on my iPad that I've missed, along with a few questions that people have asked me, like the more common questions, and we are going to smash in and tidy this series up so that we're done and dusted. So first of all, let's start with the suspension system, which is where I missed a heap of stuff and people were querying a few things that they saw that I didn't mention. We'll just get stuck in. The first thing that I missed was my Superior Engineering adjustable rear pen hud rod. This is more kind of a thing you do on high lifted cars, but it's something that I wanted to do on the 200 series just to make sure that the diff was tracking perfectly straight and true and the car wasn't kind of crabbing, and also for a bit of extra strength. Sticking with the idea of strength, I also replaced the rear lower trailing arms on my 200 with Superior Engineering ones. The Superior Engineering arms are far stronger than the standard Toyota ones, and I've heard some horror stories about people bending the standard ones and not being able to drive their car home. This isn't something I wanted to happen to me, and before we went remote to our first Cape trip, I made sure that we replaced these rear lower arms. Sticking with the Superior Engineering theme, I installed one of their Diff Drop kits. Now, a lot of people say this isn't necessary if you are installing the ARB BP51 suspension because it's only about a 2-inch lift. But after having the suspension installed, I noticed that the angle on the CVs was pretty extreme. So the idea is that you install the Diff Drop, it lowers the diff, levels out those CVs to a better angle, which means that you should get longer life from them. I haven't had any issues to date since I've done this. I know that before I had the diff drop in, that I did have a couple of CV problems, but afterwards, so far, all good. Now, another suspension or driveline modification that people say isn't necessary if you're only doing a 2-inch lift is upper control arms. I decided to do upper control arms because the wheel alignment was right on the limits of what was acceptable, and you could physically see that the tires were on a massive angle on the car. To start off with, I went with the Superior Engineering upper control arms, sticking with the theme. And to be honest, I didn't really like them. The Superior Engineering arms have an oversized ball joint in them, and the idea with that ball joint is that it kind of beds in after, 1,000 kilometers of driving. Now, mine never bed in. I went back to Superior Engineering a couple of times. They said that it felt normal, but the steering was just never right for me. The steering wheel would never return to center automatically when you let go of it. And there was a lot of times where it was pretty dangerous on the highway, towing. It just didn't feel right to me at all. So after dealing with those arms for about 18 months, I decided to make the change and went with Blackhawk upper control arms, and these things have been absolutely brilliant. From day one, they changed the way that my Cruiser drove, and I wish I had have done it from the start. Anyone that is doing any kind of lift, upper control arms, in my opinion, are a must. Okay, so that kind of covers the driveline suspension things that I missed. Now I'm going to get into a few questions that I kept getting asked throughout the series. The first thing was the ARB Links control box. Where is it located? It is actually located under the driver's seat. And under the passenger seat is where I have my Selfie Go booster control box located. Now, these are not ideal positions because if I was ever to get stuck in any kind of water crossings and water was to get into the car, they're kind of the first things that are going to get hit. To be honest, I don't really know where else to put them in the 200. I've had some people say mount them at the back on the drawers, but to be honest, that kind of area is pretty full for me. So if anyone has any good tips or tricks or suggestions for where I could put the Selfie Go booster control module and my ARB Links main module, please bang them down in the comments below because I'd be keen to find out. Another question that I've had a lot has to do with the aftermarket headlights that are on the Cruiser. As I stated in the video about the lighting, these are not genuine headlights, they are aftermarket headlights. I've had these for 2 years and they have shown no issue of yellowing or deteriorating in the UV. This car lives outside, it really does. It doesn't live under a carport, there's no shade above it or anything like that. It literally lives on the street in front of my house or on the street in front of my work office or out on a track somewhere. So the lights are in UV constantly. And after 2 years of owning them, I haven't noticed any issues whatsoever. I've also done a heap of deep water crossings where the headlights have been underwater for a fair period of time, and they've shown no signs of water ingress at all, so I can really highly recommend these lights. I'm going to try and find the eBay link that I bought them through, and I'll put it down in the description below if anyone wants to check them out. Now, I've obviously got some very keen viewers that noticed a couple of small dents in the back of my tailgate on the 200. Now these are caused, yes, by my Razzler rear bar. So before anyone stresses out thinking that there is a problem with the Razzler rear bar for a 200 series, let me assure you that there isn't. As soon as I noticed that these marks were occurring, I reached out to Razzler, sent them photos of the bar, sent them photos of how it was installed, and they were happy with how everything lined up and looked. They said a common problem with the older model 200 series is that the straps that hold the rear lower tailgate stretch over time, especially if you're constantly putting weight on that lower tailgate, as I constantly do. So the issue is those straps have lengthened over time, and it's just causing the rear tailgate to hit on that bar whenever I sit on it or put any kind of heavy load on it. Now this is something that I will eventually get fixed when I turn around to sell the car. At the moment it doesn't really bother me that much. Yes, there's small little dents in the back of my car, but they're not causing me any kind of issues. It's something I can fix when I go to sell it. I've also had a lot of questions about the ARB Links kit and why I don't have my driving lights connected into the ARB Links control module. Now, as I said in the video, the ARB Links system has 6 output modules standard, and I have already used 3 of those output modules. There is an extension unit you can get to this that increases its capability up to 8 output modules, which means that I would have 5 spare if I went that way. Now, if I did move all of my lights from the physical buttons on the dash over to the ARB Links module, it means that I would only have 2 outputs spare if I got the expansion system. This is something that I'm just really not willing to do, to be honest. In all honesty, the lights work perfectly fine off the switches on the dash. I'm never going to find myself in a position where I need to take the ARB Links module out of the car and turn the lights on at night when the car's not running. That's not really something that I'm into, to be honest. Having my driving lights running off physical switches on my dash and not on the ARB Links module, to me, gives me better control. I live in suburbia, so most of the time I'm driving around in areas with lots of houses. And when I put my high beams on, I don't want my side lights coming on, I don't want my long spots coming on. Honestly, sometimes I don't even want my roof light bar coming on. So having physical buttons on the dash is very quick and easy as I'm driving along to flick them on and off. If I had the ARB Links module connected to those lights and I was driving down through suburbia, I would be sitting there flicking, scrolling screens, trying to touch the screen to turn them on and off as I was driving. So to me, it just doesn't seem safe. There's no added benefit for me in doing this. It's just extra money, extra wiring that has to happen, and it's not something that I'm really willing to do. It might suit you guys better for your application, but for me, I prefer to have the physical buttons for my driving lights. So that about covers it. The only other bunch of questions that I kept getting had to do with the kitchen cooking setup that I have in the rear drawers on the 200. I'm going to do a completely separate video on that. So if that's something that you want to see, make sure that you hit the subscribe button below and click on the notification bell so that you're notified when that video comes out. This wraps it up, finally. I've said this before in episode 9, but this is it now. I believe that I've covered everything. I've answered everyone's questions. If you think that I've missed something or you want more info on something, please bang it down into the comments below, or feel free to send me a DM over on my Instagram. Make sure you go check that out. Otherwise, stay tuned on this channel. We have a heap more videos coming, so I hope I'll see you guys in the next one.